Well, good morning, everybody. This is Charles Calhoun, aka the Shadetree Pro, here at the beautiful Grand Vista Marriott here in Orlando, Florida, where I own and operate my teaching business under the Shadetree. Hey, here recently, I've been giving some lessons to some beginners, and I tell people all the time, I do like my advanced teaching and pushing those people who's already know how to play, but don't get it misunderstood. I do know how to teach beginners, and I've got a nice concept of where I teach beginners. Now, one of the things is that well, any beginner that comes to me, the first thing I do is I give them my Dead Fingers book, and I show them a Dead Fingers grip, and I show them how to stay around the house and sit around and keep squeezing those dead fingers, locking that grip in. Because when I first learned how to play the game of golf, one of the things is that old pro told me, he said, Charles, you can sit around the house and improve your game, without even hitting balls, just getting your hands to learn how to meld them to the golf club. Now, I wish I would have known the dead fingers at the time, but, since I wrote it, I know it now. And still to this day, I sit around the house when I'm watching TV, and I'll constantly work on those dead finger grip, just feeling that connection to the golf club. It's very, very valuable. But then, as with beginners too, one of the things I do with beginners as well is I definitely talk about the three body setup, where it's upper body, the middle body, and lower body. And I show them how to build a setup from that upper body, middle body, lower body in comparison to the traditional upper body and lower body. And the reason, like I said, and that's basically, come from the medical field. And why I do that, because a lot of people are starting to understand that the shoulder girdle is a separate entity from the body cavity, and you must separate it from the body, because the great majority of your movements and confusions, in a sense, in a golf swing, is going to come from what actually swings the golf club. It's unfortunately, we've got too much teaching that's so predicated on what the hips and all of those are doing, and not understanding that all the real problems come from the hands, the arms, and the shoulder girdle, because those are the things that they got to be spot on, because they are making, more or less a targeted type of swing. In other words, whether we're trying to strike the ball one way or another. But you all have heard me many, many times talk about the importance of my anatomical ends. And so once you understand the three bodies, that's the framework. That's like building it. But now we need to drive it. Now, one of the things I talk about, and I teach beginners, is why the anatomical ends are so important. Because once again, the anatomical ends, the head, the hands, the feet, they're conducive to any and everybody who plays this game. That's what a true fundamental is. Now, one of the things in the setup I want you all to understand is like, I show you how to do the three bodies, but let me show you how, to get ready to drive the car. So when you get out on the course and you're wanting your setup or something, I'm going to show you how to make this simple using the anatomical ends. And the way you do this is this. When you get ready to go and you get ready to set up to address your golf ball, always remember, you got a good ball location, good setup, good grip, good takeaway, and swing. Remember those things. That's how I teach you how to build a consistent routine, by understanding the ball location, the setup, the grip, the takeaway, and the swing. And you learn how to do that as you develop your game. But how do you address that ball? Now, here's a good way to do this. Using the anatomical ends, the head, the hands, the feet, what you do is just take your eyes and look down at your feet. Because you're going to be looking at your feet and make sure they're in a good condition anyway. Look down at your feet. And when you look down at your feet, simultaneously just bring your hands down here as well. And then all of a sudden now you're in a good position, because if you look down at your feet, believe it or not, your body automatically is going to bend over and get you into that great position, and that great setup position. Now you understand that like I said, you know how to move. The three bodies is just showing you how to move, and what's being moved. Whereas now the anatomical ends is showing you how you basically set up. So now, once again, just take your eyes, and you can look at me from this side as well. Get me a good ball location. All you have to do is take your eyes with the anatomical ends, again, the head, the hands, the feet. Just look down at your feet and let your hands hang down here. Because remember, as I said, regardless if you're Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, whoever. Any swing that you make, the hands will go between the eyes or the chin, however you want to do it. You'll figure out what works more comfortable to you. Some people like the hands out, some like them in. I do kind of like them in a little bit. But they will always swing below the head and over top of the feet. So no matter what you do, so now you look down at your feet. Now you can always get your feet in a good position that you want. I do recommend just a little bit, the old Hogan thing that does. I like that because the turning of the foot actually gives you the direction of which you're going. So when you sit there, I haven't hit a ball today. You look down at your feet. Now your hands are in a good position. Now you can tell quickly if your hands are too far out. You definitely can bring them in. You're in a good posture. Now you can make some type of move on it. And once I get a person or a beginner to work on these things that's outside of the teaching, to where they consistently bending over, looking down at their feet, getting that set up, getting their hands, all of those things, once I get them to do that and practice that, now when they come to me and they go to set up with a good dead fingers grip, now they know they can look down towards their feet, because we're always looking at our feet to make sure we get them at a good position or good ball location, because we're doing it anyway. So now once we're there, the hands are there. Now it's just a matter of showing them how to get the club up and bring it back down. And the thing is, one different for me, when I'm teaching beginners, I don't teach them all the rotational of the hips. I teach them to move in conjunction of where we are, which is moving sideways. And I have learned that when you teach somebody, teach them first how to move sideways, rocking like this. Y'all see me talk about my dip, baby, dip. When I get them to move their knees sideways and get the focus off the hip, because there can be some complications in the hip here. There's no confusion with the knees. Get them to move them sideways, then it allows me to put them in a position to where I start teaching them this move here, where they start feeling their self moving sideways, but yet in the same time, what's happening is that the body is naturally doing what it's supposed to do, because the swinging of the arms is going to cause the body to create certain types of rotation or whatever, or what we want to call turn. And I do recommend, when I'm doing this, or if you use this, what I'm talking about, I do recommend that you teach them how to get their feet or their heels up off the ground. We want to get those feet lively. Even if you're not necessarily, lifting your foot up off the ground, the pressures that you do when you're making your swing, even the rest of them, there is a sensation of feeling the heel coming up even inside of your shoe. Hogan talked about how his heel came up in his shoe when he made his backswing, his trail foot, how the heel came up. And it was easy in a sense, just the same on the left side, just to, plant that back down. So there's all these little variables that come into play. And, and the thing is, a lot of the things you can do to improve your game starts before you even hit a golf ball. Because if you get a good proper three-body setup, understanding the three-body setup, that the upper body, the middle body, and lower body, the framework, and then taking that to the anatomical ends, where all you're doing is taking the head, looking down towards the feet, and setting the club in between that, and your hands in between that, and getting that point to where you can finally start making a motion that's actually moving you sideways. Because as you move sideways, your arms are naturally going to come around your body, simply because the scapulars are on the posterior side of your body. So people, this is how I do when I go to teach beginners. And don't worry, this also will help you, those people that advance. Give yourself an opportunity to take a look and see, where you are in your stance, where you are in your setup. Are you set up properly? Like my first book, Golf Setup for Success, as it talks about, it's like, are you setting up properly? And if you are, do you know why? Do you know how? So always do those checkpoints, because every good mechanic, every good pilot, everyone always does a great checkpoint. And one of the best ones, as I'm saying, with the anatomical ends, is being able to take your eyes and look down at your feet and get yourself, because your body will naturally bend, and get your hands set in between there and get yourself ready. Now, another thing I'm going to show you all that I really am eminent, well, let me see, that I really like to talk about is in the address position, especially when you're starting with irons and such. And I'd like to start everybody there in this condition. Is when I set up, if I look through my arms right here, I like to feel like this arm or that spacing is, I can see my lead leg or the inside of my lead thigh. You know, I was taught that some years ago, and it's something that I really like. I like to see, when you look down, you should be able to see the inside between your arms, the insides of your lead thigh. And what that does, it allows me that when I make my swing, I feel like I'm always bringing that club to and through the area. So when I get that with a good anatomical ends, I get that, I just feel like I can make a good pass through the ball by just staying in that nice posture, letting it come through, and consistently trying to bring those arms, not even so much in relation to the body, but bringing them back to that area. So when you train your arms to be in this area, you'll start coming back to that area, whether your trail side comes up here or whatever. You're just trying to train those arms to get back to that area, to and through the golf ball. People, I hope you enjoy that. That's kind of how I teach beginners. Try to make it simple and easy. You know, try to stay within the fundamentals of what really happens in your setup, your grip, as well as your golf swing. Like I tell people all the time, you know, when people say, hey, I trust in the science, well, listen, I say it like this. If you're not willing to trust the dead fingers or the three-body setup, which is part of science, and they can be backed completely by science, then why should you expect me to adapt to your science if you're not willing to adapt to mine? Hey, this is Charles Calhoun, aka the Shadetree Pro, and you know how I do it, people. Leave me a comment. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Take a look at my membership channel as well. And don't forget, people, give me a thumbs up there. Let's keep this channel pushing. And you know how I do it, baby. Always good golf.